Hello, Actor Trade and Rehearsal and Self-Tape Partners for Actors group. So excited to be here today, this afternoon, this evening, wherever and whenever you are watching. I am going to be looking to my right and to my left today as I talk to our guest, because I have a couple chat windows open and I don't want to miss any of the streams that we're streaming out of. Actor Trade is an incredible app and a great community, and so is the Rehearsal and Self-Tape Partners for Actors on Facebook. I'm Robert Galinsky. I'm super excited to be here with my guest today. Before I tell you about my guest, Actor Trade is premiering a show on October 10th, Saturday, October 10th, in the evening, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. East Coast time, and they are premiering a play called The Bench. The Bench is a show that I wrote and ran at the Cherry Lane Theater in New York City off Broadway as a solo show, and then also in LA at the Hudson Guild and at the Matrix Theater and a number of venues. And we cast 3 of our actors out of the Actor Trade group through the Actor Trade app on Rehearsal and Self-Tape Partners for Actors. Those 3 actors are Michael Houston, Renee Rogoff, and Amber Crawford. They will be joining myself, Monique Coleman, and Shabaka Henley, Barry Shabaka Henley, on October 10th. It's directed by J.O. Sanders, presented by Chris Noth, produced by Terry Schnook and Actor Trade. So let's get our guest in here. He is back by popular demand. We have had him on once before, and I can see that the chat room is all fired up. Here he is, the Pitchman of Hollywood, Mark Schoenfeld. Hey, Mark.
Galinsky, how we doing?
Great, good to see you, man.
Good seeing you, my man.
Very exciting to have you here. I was just telling the audience while you were in the green room eating baby carrots and French onion dip, sipping on non-alcoholic champagne, about how you are the Pitchman of Hollywood, and you didn't give yourself that name. Somebody else gave you that name. Tell us about that.
Hugh Jackman was attached as my partner in an animated musical that I wrote, and he brought me into Jeffrey Katzenberg's office when Jeffrey wasn't Quibi, it was DreamWorks. And I did a 45-minute pitch for Jeffrey Katzenberg and his lieutenants. And when I was done, Jeffrey Katzenberg said that was the greatest pitch he has seen in his 30-something years in show business. You are the Pitchman of Hollywood. And he talked about how Eddie Murphy, and I said, well, thank you, I was humbled. And he talked about how Eddie Murphy came in there a month before, and I blew Eddie Murphy away in presentation and all of that. So the moniker, it stuck because I had people with me, Scott Price and different producers with me, and they started calling me the Pitchman of Hollywood, and it just started to go around.
So let's talk about the work that you're doing now. I mean, you've sold 5 screenplays to Hollywood. You've worked at up to 5 different record labels. You had a Broadway show. The Broadway show was turned into a film and toured. So the question off the top is, how did you make it in Hollywood, in show business in general?
So in show business in general, I started off in the music business when I was 18 years old. I became an A&R man for a very powerful guy who ran Epic Records. From there, I got many deals at record labels, Capitol, EMI, Manhattan, Motown, and Razor and Tie. That was with Brooklyn, Razor and Tie. So I had a lot of positions, I had a lot of record deals, but that meant nothing to Hollywood, really meant nothing. So the answer, how did I make it in Hollywood, was I was bold and I was unique. So when I went to Hollywood, I didn't go in with a script. I went in with a pitch. And the pitch was a one-man show, and I played every character, and everything I did had to do with music, Galinsky. So I sang every song, and I'm not a singer, and but the music was all professionally done, and I sold a bunch of projects. So you can't say they were scripts; they were projects because they were pitches. But they never seen anything like it, so they would say, "Well, what are we buying?" And I said, "You tape me." And it was just like selling a script. There was no difference. And that became the Pitchman. That started I pitched Hugh Jackman for 45 minutes, then he became attached to something. So I sold 5 Hollywood projects in 3 years, and that was some sort of a record.
Amazing.
But how did I do it? I was unique. No one was doing that, right? Everyone's coming with a script, and no one reads anything in Hollywood. No one wants to read anything. And I was very bold. How did I get into those people's offices? I booked myself into an industry hotel. I had a little bit of investor money to do this venture, and I paid off the maitre d'. I paid off every waitress to tell, I could tell if Clint Eastwood's there.
What do you mean by paid off? Tell us what do you mean?
Okay, paid off, meaning I meet the maitre d'. His name is Dimitri. Everyone knows him in Hollywood. I don't know what hotel he's at now. I picked this hotel because he's so famous and so well known. So when I met him, I simply gave him, I can't remember if I gave him $100 or $500. Well, let's say it was $100. I gave him $100. I said, can you play this music in this tiny little bar? And he played the music, and I met an executive from Orion Pictures. The next day I was up with the president of Orion. I sold the project literally the second day I was in Hollywood. Literally the second day.
That should make a lot of people who are in Hollywood that have been working hard for years trying to break in, make them real happy.
And then 3 months later, I sold another one. And that one wasn't even written yet. Because I sold that one, I was so motivated, I wrote another one and sold that one. And it was just very, very unique and very bold. Those are the real, those 2 words, those 2 philosophies. There's many more, but those 2 are the most important. Be bold, be unique.
Full disclosure, I know Mark pretty well. He's one of my mentors, as well as a friend and co-producer on some ideas and projects. So I'm letting you all know that what you hear about what he's doing is what I assume, Mark, you do with your clients. So if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit of, when you consult with people, if you go to Schoenfeld.cool, which is a great website, not .com, but .cool, you'll see what a little bit of what Mark offers. But tell us, what is it that you do, and how do you take, not only, you train people, you consult with people, but then your network is like a whole nother level of what you bring to the consultation.
Sure. So the network, there's literally no one that I can't meet in Hollywood. There's nobody. So if you say a name, if you say Steven Spielberg, I can get to him. I personally don't know Steven Spielberg, but I know someone who knows him. So I'm 1 degree or 2 degrees away from anybody, and I myself know so many, right? In other words, I know Jeffrey Katzenberg. So Jeffrey Katzenberg was partners with Steven Spielberg, right? So, I knew Harvey Weinstein. I know he's a creep and all of that, but, he bought one of my projects from me. So I just knew, I know everyone. So when I'm working with let's call it a student, a client, I'm trying to figure out a way what they have and how do I make it unique. If someone is a singer, and they want to be a singer, they want to be a pop singer. Okay, I know there's no real industry other than social media for music right now, unless you pay to play, that kind of stuff, have a lot of money, $5 million, give it to someone, you can make it in the record business. But there is a business of people who make movie musicals, like High School Musical, Kenny Ortega, or whatever. So I discovered a girl named Jasmine Hunter, and I worked with her for 8 months rigorously. And I turned her into a actor singer, not just a singer. And when I brought her to Hollywood, it took about eight months. She got everything. She got huge offers for TV shows. She got offered a record deal, a traditional record deal. She was being brought into Kenny Ortega. It all happened in 8 days. And then, unfortunately, she got Lyme disease, and now she has to come back to Hollywood. A lot of those great opportunities are gone. But some of them, they're all going to meet her again. So I just worked with her and made her completely unique. And she fought me a little bit of the way, but she saw what happened to her. And I have another young girl right now that's a comedy writer, and she wanted to be on Broadway. But when I Zoomed with her, I realized how funny she was. And then she told me she's the funniest one throughout her schooling in the room. So I said, well, why don't you write like some short stories and all that? Immediately, she wrote a book. She wrote a song. I sent it. They were great. I worked with her a little bit on it. Her name is Nina Dicker. And I sent it out to people that I know, Galinsky, and boom, they all want to meet her. And that's like in 3 months or 4 months now.
So part of the process that I'm noticing from what you're saying is you're assessing, you're doing like an inventory of talent, drive, motivation. You're imbuing drive and motivation on people. And then once you feel like you've zeroed in on what's ready to be seen, you now open the gate to have that particular person or that project that she's got or he got seen.
Exactly. Here's the thing. If I bring someone that I don't think is A-list to the people that I know, then I'm in trouble because I won't have an open door policy. So I have to work with these people to get them to be A-list in whatever lane they're in. So just recently, I mean, just in the 2 days, I have a client that's a young, I think 22-year-old girl that's an actress. And just being an actress is not enough. I'm trying to think of the lane for that actress. Like, for example, Galinsky, if someone comes to me and it's a guy and he just looks like an Italian thug, there's a lane for that guy, right? But if you're just an actor, well, it's going to be difficult. You've got to find a lane because, you know, even if you're a mafia actor and there's no movie being made, you're going to be seen. And being seen is the most important thing. And then being seen, someone says, well, we could have you play this part or this part, even though it's not a mafia guy. But you need to go in with a lane. Being just an open book is not going to do it. And that's with every single thing. That's with music. That's with, if you're writing Broadway, that's with comedy. You have to have a lane. This girl, Nina Dicker, the lane is, you know, female comedy, sex stories, true stories, but the lane is for younger girls, not for girls 30, 40 years old, but for girls that are just in college. That's what it's for. Now the girls in college are following Amy Schumer and other people that are banging into 40 or 40 already. So why there's an open lane for a 20-year-olds to like something like that. So that's how we're focusing with her with that.
The chat rooms are blowing up, so let me just shout out a few people. Of course, the great Dylan Mooney is in the chat, which is
the great. Dylan the Great.
Dylan the Great. We've got Avant Jones, Raul Aviles, and we've got Linda A. Zolo. Linda said, wow, and congratulations. She has a question. There's a couple other questions here. You sold it off a pitch, not a script. Going back to the pitch meeting you had. So she's asking, you sold it off a pitch, not a script.
That's correct. But the pitch is flamboyant. It's not like this meets that, or, you know, I could tell it to you in 5 minutes. So they're saying, we don't want to see any pitch that's 5 minutes. Well, my pitch is 45 minutes. So stop me when you want me to leave and you want to kick me out. But they can't, because as you know, Galinsky, when you met me, everyone was speaking to you about how is the Pitchman and stuff. It's too flamboyant. They never saw anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think when you heard all that, that's really sort of what came down to even you doing the bench, you know, that you got to, whatever you did before that with the bench, you had to make it even more flamboyant. Just really go to 10, put the marshals on 10.
Yeah. Which for me meant asking someone like Chris Noth to be one of the presenters and just going, taking that step.
Yes.
And I would not have taken that step without your teachings, because you really showed me that you got something great, but if no one knows about it, and you got to, like, what's that quote? The Jimmy Breslin, you got to toot your own horn if you want to play in my band.
That's it. That's it.
All right. So question out of chat here. When do you know when someone has the it factor?
Oh, you really sort of know. Probably, you know, I don't want to be severe with it, but you probably know within a minute. you probably know that especially someone like me who's been doing it. You know, A&R is basically artist and repertoire. That's a talent scout. That's all that means. So, you know, I've been doing it since I'm 18 years old. So you sort of know really fast, like you can see the winners at the starting gate if you're a betting guy on the track or whatever. It's like that. But it's really not severe because it also could take, you know, 2 hours. It also could take 2 days, could take 2 weeks. But someone like me, I know pretty fast.
Got another question here. Your consulting, does it also entail a bit of management as well? Kind of.
Yeah, it's a great question. The answer is no, and here's the reason why. If someone follows through and achieves what I think is A-list or greatness, I will open those doors up to other managers and agents. And I will then get a small percentage from them of managing X, or let's say it was you, Galinsky, they manage you. I'd get a small percentage from them. And if it was not enough that they gave, then I get a small percentage of you for like a period of 3 years. And then after that, it goes down and down and down. But I would bring you, so for example, Jasmine Hunter, I bring her to Scooter Braun, who manages Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber. That's what I would do. Because I am not going to be hanging with all these young people and traveling and planes. And now with COVID, even worse. But even if there was no COVID, I'm just not going to, I'm not young enough to do all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Another question in here is, I'll go to this window first, is you talked once about creating your backstory as an artist. Can you expand on that?
Oh, whoever heard me, that's really great.
The chat is blowing up right now, so
okay.
There's a nice line of questions, and that's
most people's backstories are really boring, right? And no one wants to hear a boring story. So I sang at 5 years old. Everyone knew I was going to be a singer. I did theater from the time I was, in 6th grade and been doing it forever. You hear the same story all the time. It's not interesting. And so you have to make yourself interesting. You have to embellish, and you might have to lie. Now think about it. Don't look at this as some moral issue. The biggest liars and embellishers in the world is Hollywood. It's show business. Everything you're hearing, everything you read is not telling you the truth, the real truth, right? So they're interested in stories that are interesting, but they're not going to invent your backstory. You have to invent your backstory.
Great. Tammy T just joined the room. Seth Robertson's in the room. Good to see you, Seth. And Amber Johnson. Good crowd here. This is great. Dylan wants to know who coined the Pitchman of Hollywood. We already said, but why not repeat? Who coined the name for you, the Pitchman of Hollywood?
So Dylan, Hugh Jackman brought me in to see Jeffrey Katzenberg. Hugh Jackman was my partner on an animated musical that I wrote. And he brought me in to see Jeffrey Katzenberg. Jeffrey Katzenberg had a bunch of his lieutenants there, and I pitched this animated musical. And when I was done, Jeffrey Katzenberg said that was the greatest pitch he has ever seen in his 30-something years in the business. You're the Pitchman of Hollywood.
Incredible. Winnie Maria is with us. Good to see you, Winnie. Winnie, ask a question for us, Winnie. Let me ask you about let me do a little stargazing here for a second. Hugh Jackman, what's he like?
I met Hugh Jackman the first time. I had to go into like a tiny little office, and he was eating and preparing for that movie where he's all bulked up and his hands are like scissor hands. What's the name of that movie? I don't know. It's like sort of superhero.
Wolverine or something.
Wolverine, and he was really packing on the protein and stuff. And let me tell you how sweet this guy was. When I was done, he said, I'm in, I'm attached. I'll get you everywhere you need to go. I said, well, I know certain people anyway. He says, yeah, but I'll get you wherever you need to go. I'll get you in. And I said, I see you doing my part. I see you being, it's animated, right? So I said, I see you being not a character, but the, the storyteller, the narrator. And he said to me, and I played every character and the narrator. He said to me, I could never fill those shoes. And he wasn't just being modest. You could tell he was sort of stunned by what he just saw. And everyone was. Every pitch, every movie I did. So then I met him a few more times. He brought me in to meet his wife and some famous Indian director. And then he laid out all the sushi for everyone and all of that. And what I could say about him, he is the most un-Hollywood guy in Hollywood. You really, really like this guy. That's what I could say about him.
So I know you're charismatic and I know you're electrified. You don't consider yourself the performer, the greatest singer ever, blah, blah, blah. So what is it about when you go in with that pitch? And what can you share with us that if we ever had, someone's listening right now, they're going to go to do a pitch tomorrow or tonight. What is it that if you're not the greatest singer, actor in the world, but you're great at pitching, what is that?
I couldn't do what I used to do. It would come off stale right now. But I had more passion than anybody. I would beat them in passion. That would be the answer. And the fearlessness to do it. The fearlessness to sing. Now I'm singing to great tracks. They're all produced just like any Disney or DreamWorks movie. It's not like me and my guitar or me and a piano. It's bombastic, but they never seen anything like it. And they also loved this sort of mistake. They loved that here I'm doing this whole morality tale and animated movie and all of that, but they loved this Bronx accent of this guy talking with this Bronx accent. And they kept talking that they were thinking of having me in the movie because of what they thought was this great accent. So that was just luck or a mistake or whatever, but you couldn't beat the passion and you couldn't beat the fearlessness.
Another question out of the chat is, what is the fine line between pitching aggressively and being too pushy? Or is there?
Well, I was not pushy. Most people that know me, they think they have really good feelings about me. They like me. They become my friends for a lifetime, no matter how high up they were or whatever. That includes all the record people that I worked for and were partners with. I don't know if the audience knows, but I was partners with Freddie DeMann, who managed Madonna and Michael Jackson and Shakira, legendary manager. So, I was never pushy, but I was really sure of myself. And you have to still be likable. So even if you're being aggressive, you still have to be likable. People don't like unlikable people, So even if they're unlikable, right? In other words, Harvey Weinstein is unlikable. Trust me, if you meet him, he is unlikable. But I still had to win him over. And I wasn't going to win him over by being a mirrored image of himself, an unlikable personality.
Got you. Tammy T has a question. Have you ever felt good about a potential talent just by looking at an audition tape? And did you work with them?
Yes, I definitely have. So by an audition tape would make me I could want to work with them. But maybe a few audition tapes would get me to a certain point. Yeah, it's almost anyone. I mean, Galinsky, you don't know all, but you know some of the people that I discovered. Scott Priceand.
Yeah.
You know Nina Dicker, the newest comedy writer. Jasmine, and Jody.
Yeah.
Would you say all of them are real finds?
Absolutely.
Right. So there it goes. So I'm picking the ones that work, but you can if you don't have it, you can still get there. Just like you create your backstory, you can still get there. You could be motivated to get there. what you have to get out of your mind is the training or the schooling that you have that brings out these cookie cutters that all go to the same kind of schools and colleges, 20 kids in a class, all taught the same thing. And then it's really hard to untrain you. It's more the rawness of you that's going to win over people than the training of expertise. Not that that doesn't work sometimes, but I have found that it doesn't work at all.
Questions are building up, so I'm going to tell you to compact your answers. And
okay.
They're great answers, but just so we can get as many questions in as possible.
Gotcha.
When pitching a project on this, they're moving now. The chat rooms are going wild. When pitching a project, is it important to have someone attached if you want to get it made versus just selling it?
If you can have if you have someone attached, you had to pitch it to that person. So, I sold projects with no people attached and, made good money with that, but also my network got bigger and bigger. But if you could pitch it and someone's attached that really is bankable, you're going to win, even if your project is lousy. You're going to win.
Got it. Linda A. Zolo, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Linda, has a follow-up now. I have 3 film concepts. One being a remake. Should I write the script first or go ahead and pitch, and to whom? Also, I'm writing myself into the films. What are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Writing yourself into the film is always a good idea, but if people love the concept in the film, they might not want you there. But it's always a good idea to be on as many lanes as you can. Learning how to pitch someone. Most people are going to say they don't want to hear a pitch, and most of them are going to say they don't want to read your script. And I will guarantee you they will not read your script. So it's learning how to go to the haunts in like Beverly Hills and where all these people hang out, being fearless to go over to someone and say, I know who you are. I know you're Avi Lerner and you produce all these movies. He by the way, always stays at Cafe Roma, Galinsky.
Yeah.
And you go over to him. He's going to accept you going over to him. And he says, okay, tell it to me in 3 minutes. And if your pitch is 15 minutes, but those first 3 minutes got him going, he's going to let you keep going. So that's one example of how to do that. Find out where they are and go meet them and be fearless and go up to them. Everyone's looking for the next star, and everyone's looking for the next star vehicle.
Yep. Another chat over here. We know you've done some amazing things. Are there any mistakes you've made that we should avoid when networking, pitching with people in the business? We're on this kind of a nice little thread here. Are there any mistakes you've made that we should avoid when networking, pitching with people in the business?
No, honestly, I haven't made any mistakes in it. Every time I did it, I won. So I can't, it's not like learning from my mistakes. I haven't made any mistakes with it. And every single time I pitched something, that person either became attached, like Hugh Jackman, or that person purchased it, like Disney, like Orion Pictures, like Miramax, like DreamWorks. So recently I went and pitched something to the new DreamWorks, and Jeffrey's not there, and I had no one attached.
Linda Azalo is replying saying, awesome, I can do that. I am fearless.
There you go. Motivated now.
Linda, put your email address in the chat or direct message so we can connect you to Mark. Tell me about, this is another one where actually Brooklyn the Musical is one of the things that you're known for. And the New York Times did something unprecedented with Brooklyn the Musical. Yeah. Want to share with us what that was? I remember.
And I did something unprecedented with the New York Times.
No, you
but the New York Times printed a comic strip that was about this big, I think on the front page of the New York Times, the only time they ever did that. And the reason is this famous, crazy guy who was a famous comic book writer named Harvey Pekar saw an interview with me on TV and called me up and said, can I write a comic strip about you? And because it's me, I'll get it into the New York Times. I said, yeah. And then when I had a battle with the New York, I became his friend at that point. I never met him. He was always on David Letterman. You could go on YouTube, put in Harvey Pekar, P-E-K-A-R. You'll see him on David Letterman. You'll see he's crazy. Anyway, at one time I had a battle with the New York Times and I picketed them. And he wrote another a comic book, not a comic strip. And he called me Broadway Renegade, or the Renegade of Broadway. So he just loved writing about me. And he saw me do an interview somewhere on television.
And then Brooklyn, I just want to stay on the Brooklyn thread for a minute. And that's how I met you. I didn't see Brooklyn, but my friend had seen Brooklyn and she saw a crowd standing around you. I went, who's that guy over there? And she ran back going, oh my God, he's the guy who wrote Brooklyn the musical. And the rest for you and I is history. Birth names. Like there was a phenomenon of people naming their children Brooklyn.
Yeah. So what happened was Brooklyn is not really about the borough of Brooklyn. It's about a girl born in Paris whose name is Brooklyn. And the mother gave her the name Brooklyn because the guy who she loved that left her pregnant came from Brooklyn. So that's the only clue she had, is her own name, Brooklyn. So when the closed shows, the New York Post had a story where 10, 11, 12 months after the show closed, all these girls were being named Brooklyn. It would have been great if when the show was open, they did that, but you know.
Right. And then one other little fun fact about Brooklyn that always gets me excited is because I volunteered at Covenant House for a while, which is a shelter here in New York City that's been here forever. And there was a gala or some kind of promo made about with one of your songs from Brooklyn.
Yeah, so that was a real surprise because someone told me to watch this show, and then all of a sudden a commercial comes on and it's Meryl Streep and Diane Keaton, and they're talking about a commercial for Covenant House, but the music that goes back and forth with their talking, and you hear the entire song and you see the song being sung, was a song from Brooklyn called There's a Heart Behind These Hands that I wrote. So that was shocking to me because Meryl Streep and Diane Keaton had to have listened to that song, you know.
That's great. Reminding people, Mark is here back by popular demand. There's probably, I think, at least 2 other episodes here on the Actor Trade Rehearsal and Self-Tape Partners for Actors group, where you can learn more about Mark and his expertise. So you can go to Schoenfeld.cool, which I put in the chat as well. And I'm just going to give Linda Zolo a shout out. She put her URL in here, lindazolo.com, and I will get you you two connected. Tammy T, who says, and I will agree that we both have coached Tammy in the chat. She says she's proud to say that she now has an agent.
Oh, that's terrific.
Good to hear, Tammy.
Yeah.
There's another question. Let me see. Let me go to this side of the room for fairness' sake. Let's see. Scenario. No, it's not showing up on this chat. Scenario. I have a project that I created with a well-known actor in mind. I see this actor sitting with a friend in a restaurant. Do I approach this actor and pitch them my project?
Absolutely yes. What's the worst that can possibly happen? Please leave me alone. That's the worst that can happen. And the best that could happen is, wow, I want to hear more. And he options it. And you made money. And he's attached. And he brings it to, a studio. That's the best. So compare. So it's absolutely yes.
Incredible. And I've seen you do that as well. Not necessarily pitch, but just see somebody at Nate Now's perhaps in Beverly Hills and just make a connection.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me a little bit about Kendall Jenner. You and Kendall Jenner got together, you had a meeting, and you were, this is almost similar in terms of like just telling somebody about what you're doing.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about what she's like. Again, going back to the Stargazer.
Okay.
What's your buddy?
So it's gonna sound like I just love everyone, and Galinsky, that's not true. Okay, but Kendall Jenner was really lovely. She met me. She had no makeup on. She had no pretension. Nothing that you would think that she would be like. She was kind to everyone that approached her. And I showed her a model that I discovered from Mississippi that was 14 years old. And she went through every picture. She listened to everything I said. And she said, this girl is not a model, she's a supermodel. And I said, she's also a gymnast. She's great in every sport. And she's a genius in technology, in coding. And she says, wow. I said, so she's not a supermodel, she's superwoman. And through her, I got this model from Mississippi. I got it to Next Models, and they made an offer.
Great. Freddie DeMann used to be your partner.
Yes.
He's produced and managed Shakira and Madonna and Michael Jackson. What was that partnership like? I'm always interested in this.
So Freddie is a legend in the music business. You can see managing superstars, but going all the way back even to the Commodores, Lionel Richie, Earth, Wind and Fire, you know, it just goes on and on and on. And so Freddie now, he left Bel Air and he lives in like somewhere around Greenwich, Connecticut now. So he is in my network. So anyone that if Freddie calls anyone, I get in. So no matter who it is, if Freddie knows them, I get in. So Freddie just saw so much in me when he met me that he asked me to become his partner. And I did most of the legwork and did most of the work. And he had, you know, just a big network and makes the phone calls and boom, I'm in the office pitching whoever I'm pitching. And, you know, and that's how that went.
So let me ask this question from over here, which is not so much approaching stars or pitching, but when someone approaches you for consulting, how do they approach you? Besides, I don't think this person's saying like, do I email you? Like, what's the process of getting started with you?
Oh, well, you just have to go to Schoenfeld.cool and it will explain what to do. But if you saw, in other words, are you saying, Galinsky, like he saw me in a restaurant in Beverly Hills? What would he do?
I'm saying, well, like, how does someone prepare to come to you to get consulting? If they have, whether it's a project or an actor, and, you know, what's the best way to get the best out of you?
Well, you have to show the willingness to be bold, the willingness to be unique, and the willingness to be fearless. Because if you don't have those things, then no matter what you have, it's just not going to happen. So I have to feel that in you, and then we mold either you, if you're the artist itself, or the writing of if you're selling, you know, a script or a play or a musical or whatever. I have to help you mold that if it's not just great as it is. Now, out of the, you know, I'm in the star finding, star making business, relatively new. Yes, I had it early on as vice president of A&R of a major record company, but you know, the only person that I actually met that I felt didn't need a lot from me was this girl, Jody Katz. You know, I from the time I met her, I took her to Beverly Hills, and
what was it that made you feel like, wow, I don't have to do much here? What?
I was giving a speech at a high school, about 1,800 kids in an auditorium or assembly, whatever they call it. And I said, no one's going to pluck you from obscurity. You know, you have to be ready when opportunity happens. You have to answer that door, because that door, no one's going to keep knocking. And she raised her hand and said, I think opportunity is knocking right now. Mr. Schoenfeld, can I perform for you? She came on stage. She sang a cappella. She performed right in front of me, in front of the whole school. I put her through, I really put her through the works. And the next day I spoke to her principal, her teachers, her parents, made her quit school, made the principal give her her high school diploma, took her to Hollywood, and she won everyone over. No matter who I took her to, she just won everyone over. So I didn't have much to do. I had to teach her about certain things, but I didn't have to mold her talents. And basically, Galinsky, yeah, in her case, even though she's a great singer, it was her innate personality. She's a personality, and that's what she is, you know? So she got movies, she got gigs right away. I immediately put her with Miley Cyrus. and then I fell sick for 8 years. So she was on her own, but she made a lot of money on his success.
She's been doing great. She toured with Miley Cyrus right out of the box from you. And then she has been with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra now, doing hundreds of shows a year, one of the lead singers, performers. And she's out of 1,100 auditioners, 3 were chosen to be Cher's backup singers on the last tour. And she,
2, I think 2.
2? So,
but not only that,
her success.
When she's not working in that kind of show business, people like LeBron James is holding the party or his friends getting married, they hire her. $10 million bar mitzvahs and weddings, they hire her. Think you could imagine the money you make when the bar mitzvah is $10 million for singing for one night. Show business doesn't pay that unless you're the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. And then usually the Rolling Stones do those gigs. You just don't know. What about, we're gonna have to wind up in a few. So I wanted to ask you a question about Stephen and Lori Herrick. You sold a screenplay to them. That was an interesting moment. Can you share that with us?
So Stephen Herrick was the golden-haired boy at Disney. He at the time had Mr. Holland's Opus with Richard Dreyfuss. That was a hit. And as director, and Lori Herrick was a producer, his wife. And then he's had 101 Dalmatians with Glenn Close, and that was a hit. And they were my partners on Brooklyn. Brooklyn, the Broadway show, was not meant to be a Broadway show. It was a movie about music. It wasn't a movie musical. And they loved it, and they brought me in, and I had a falling out with, not with Laurie, but with Stephen. And that made me go into making it a musical, because he spent his own money, Galinsky, 500 grand to put it on stage to see what it looks like, just his own money. And he said, wow, this could make a great musical. So I figured, okay, I saw what it looks like on stage.
For you. Yeah.
Yeah. And the musical happened like really fast.
Great. Let's see. Of all the talented people, both behind and in front of the camera, who was the most impressive at what they do? Question out of chat. Now, I'll repeat it again. The chat is blowing up, and one of the questions is, of all the talented people, both behind and in front of the camera, who is the most impressive at what they do?
I can't say in what they do, but the most impressive to me was Jeffrey Katzenberg for this reason. I had 2 beautiful women singing the female songs for this animated musical, and I would sing all the male songs. He never once looked at one was Jody Katz, and one was my partner, Barry McPherson. Barry is a girl. And he never once, when they stood up and to sing the song, looked at them. He stared at me without blinking for 45 minutes. He was trying to figure me out, and no one else ever did that. And so I was always impressed that he was really trying to psychoanalyze me, trying to figure me out. Because when the music would play, I would pretend that I was Beethoven, that I'm so into the music. And he was trying to figure out, is he that much of a quirky genius savant, or is he just brilliant at promoting what he's doing? He was trying to figure it out, and whether he bought it or not, it was impressive.
And what was it that you did? Was it intentional, rather?
Oh, it was absolutely intentional. Absolutely. You can't go wrong by someone saying, wow, what an act to this. See that act that guy put on? The whole business is acting. You can't go wrong with it. But he was trying to figure out, is it real or not real? Is he a savant or not a savant? And no one else. They just think when I was selling all this, they just thought I was a savant.
Schoenfeld.cool, not Schoenfeld.com, because com is not part of what you're going to learn with Mark. You'll be calm, but you'll be bold and fearless. Schoenfeld.cool for any more information on Mark, to reach out to him consulting. Mark, want to tell us anything else? Final words?
Yeah, let me give one pearl of wisdom that, and it's good for even you to hear again, Galinsky, but I know you heard it from me a long, long time ago. 15 years ago. The currency of favors is greater than money in Hollywood. If you could do favors for people and you cash them in, they're worth more than the money they would have given you for that, or what the original favor you gave. And so if you can work for free for someone, work for free, because and they can make things happen for you rather than get paid. Say, I'll work for free because that person owes you a favor. And when you cash in favors, they're so much greater than the $30 an hour they were going to pay you to be their intern, if you're young enough to be an intern, that kind of stuff. Work for free.
Amber, Aviles, Ricardo, thank you for being with us. Tammy T. Julie Stort says, great advice. Dylan Mooney, thank you for having us here. Zolo, I'm looking forward to seeing what you and Mark Schoenfeld perhaps cook up. What a great show. Schoenfeld.cool for more information about Mark Schoenfeld. Don't forget October 10th, Saturday, right here on the Self-Tape Partners for Actors group. We're going to premiere The Bench with Shabaka Henley and Monique Coleman. Again, thanks, Mark, for being with us. It was a great, great session.
Thanks, Galinsky. Thanks, Dylan.
Ciao, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye-bye, guys.